What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what big money did today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down with the broader market, went down 7.96%, 26.13 the low, 29.80 the high, and 100 million shares being traded. 67.5 is the average. So when it comes down to this morning, we did have some data that was relatively positive, and that was Michigan consumer sentiment came in at 9 a.m. and forecast was 54, came in at 55. So pretty good stuff. As a byproduct of that, we did see this move up slightly. So a 96.7% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut for the upcoming meeting. I still do feel truly that this has not been priced in yet. So most likely over the next week and a half, that will be done unless something crazy does happen. But what really started to spook the market was this. So first you had Ray Dalio kind of warning about the debt levels and how we were going to see pretty much a significant push lower. So that was starting off pretty much first thing. And then you did have right here Trump. So of course we haven't really heard too much from Trump, like occasional thing here and there, but nothing significant. He clearly didn't have his coffee or didn't have something, but clearly woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And so he did say that he was thinking about increasing the tariffs on China, and it's all coming down to them not really budging so much on rare earth minerals. And Trump actually did cancel his meeting going into next week. So of course, I think the market generally as well, leading even to this moment, has been finicky. SoFi has been doing fairly well, as I pointed out, but the broader market's been very jumpy. This is why you have a lot of volatility. A lot of stocks, not SoFi, has kind of had lower volume, and even generally the last week we did see $19.84 billion leave both equity and crypto to go back to money markets. So right now there's about $7.39 trillion sitting in money markets. So there is a certain level of fear, and I think a lot of that honestly did start because of Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium several weeks back. Ever since then, we've seen just a lot of jumpiness. And so with Trump saying what he did, that was the kryptonite that the market needed to just sell off like crazy. So SoFi didn't have any news today, nor any SEC filing. So it was just for the most part piggybacking off of the broader market. It was trying to hold some gains. So first thing, the market did kind of go down here. Like SoFi did do fairly well, moral of the story. And even if we look at the secondary market and also the dark pool, you saw a lot of big transactions. So in my opinion, this might be premature to kind of start talking about it, but I feel like today's push lower was rather artificial. Only because if you do look at a lot of different stocks, most of their volume did come from algorithmic trading, because based on this right here on the secondary market, most of which were buys. So everything that does show as a bid was a sell. So you do see the occasional selling, institution selling, but mostly there was a lot of big money buying. So again, I know, of course, this whole news about China is kind of gray. We don't really know what is happening with that, but big money definitely was buying the dip in SoFi's case. So something to keep in mind, some of the big ones, 60.9 million, 12.3, 11.8, 7.2. And then on the dark pool, you did see some big transactions as well. So I'll hit refresh. Nothing like 60 or 100 or 200 mil, unfortunately. So the highest on the dark pool was 6.5 million, 4.2, 3.2, and 2.4, so forth. So again, if you kind of look at everything, algos did really suppress SoFi, but you did see a fair amount of buying, if that kind of makes sense. If you ever want further explanation, I know I go through things relatively fast, but if you ever want me to take the time to go through things, let me know. Over the weekend, I will be going over this. I had some questions about the quantitative data that Seeking Alpha does have, so I'll kind of spend a little bit more time on my weekend video for that. But as far as shorts, they did return 194,000 shares. 9.36% of the free floats being shorted, works to be 110.13 million shares overall being shorted. So definitely good to see that shorts did return as well. If you kind of read between the lines, it also does signal that shorts didn't really see that it was justified, because there is a lot of available shares that they could easily double down, but they didn't. So again, kind of analyzing this is relatively optimistic. Looking at the options, you had 130 million in calls, 20 million in puts. 48% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. So going into next week, you kind of have, for the most part, still a lot of optimism for it to be above 29. Bears are anticipating they're kind of all over the place, but most of which is for it to be sub 26. With it closing where it did at 26.19, that does mean that the 26 and below strike prices are in the money, and there's nothing for open interest. You have 6,000. That's not going to do anything in reality. So you won't be seeing any bump up going into next week, unfortunately. But with it right now at 26.19, it is trading between, looks like right below this pivot point. So 26.24 is going to be that key point to watch for. And then 24.79 is going to be the following kind of a support level. So just watch for kind of both of those. Aside from that though, on the actual chart itself, today was rocky, so it did bring it below that 10-day moving average, so not necessarily the best, but there wasn't really that much in actual news. So I think now just investors are waiting for SoFi to announce cryptocurrency, because that's going to be the next big thing, and potentially, based on what Ray was mentioning, logically, there will be a lot of money gravitating towards cryptocurrency, because technically that's what makes sense, right? The whole debt ceiling, the cryptocurrency alleviates that. So in general, if SoFi was to announce crypto, I think right now is a optimum time. But basically looking at the market position, you are seeing a little bit of a lag. So for instance, if it does break below that 24.96, this is where you could see some significant push lower. At the same time, that would be below that 50-day moving average, and generally that's a big deal for SoFi. But given all the recent volatility, you do see stochastic RSI somewhat neutral, so it's not really overbought nor oversold, and nothing really for new ratings whatsoever. So now SoFi was just kind of piggybacking off of the broader market, and like I said, I personally feel like today was just artificially brought down because of algorithms, but what do I know in life? And for those of you that want to see it, so this is the flow, the smaller transactions right here, that is algos. Pretty much if you pull up any stock, it shows the exact same thing. So algos were really just feeding off of that and just said F the market and just kind of suppressed a lot of stocks. So let me know your thoughts. Did you buy the dip? Did you sell? The only thing I did was, luckily enough, I did sell a 29.50 covered call. So I got a little bit of premiums, nothing too crazy. And I did it when I was at 29.17. So I kind of caught the top. So that's kind of a good thing. But nonetheless, it did go down quite significantly. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Give yourself a shout out. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.